Hi, I'm Christina,
And I'm Matt.
and this is New Ways Podcast. Today, the topic of discussion is the workplace. Specifically, we're going to be covering toxic workplaces.
Yeah.
But I don't want to limit us to that, so we'll see where it goes.
Well, I think it's important to talk about different types of workplaces and how you can sort of see yourself in any and all situations and how to deal with it.
Definitely, because it's so prevalent. I mean, Americans spend a majority of their life at work, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And you can see a difference too in like people who enjoy their jobs and have good teams and good people around them. And you can see how healthier they are. And just so I think that we came up with this topic, interesting enough, on our hike last week because I was trying to figure out, I was like, what do we come in here and talk about this week? And but interesting enough, I've been kind of going through a little bit of this myself, not recently, but I've dealt with it in the past pretty badly with toxic work environments. And also too, you are a nurse at a very, intense setting at a hospital. And I can't imagine what that's like having, kind of difficult work environments. And so I would like to, I'd like to kind of share too, like one of the biggest things that we want to discuss was, what does a toxic work environment look like to you?
Yeah. And I was going to actually ask you because I love how we choose kind of our weekly discussions now based off of things that are prevalent or just in the back of our heads. How about you share with me the experience that we were actually talking about that came up from your past when we were on the hike?
Yeah.
That brought up this topic.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it was pretty simple. It was just that
But it's so prevalent to so many people.
It's so prevalent, right? It's that I confided into someone who I thought was a safe person to talk to about sort of the frustrations I was having with like my boss and everything and, the people I was working with. And I genuinely thought I actually like trusted this person, and I'm very careful about that. And then they turned around and decided to share all of that information with everyone. And it was just really, it was really hard. It's like, cause you create sort of trust with people, and then they turn around and then they, stab you in the back, or, they turn around and, go tell a million other people what, is said. And you're like, and also, by the way, this was also a therapist. Like, you're not supposed to share anything. Bro, what the frick?
Like, I know you always tell me HIPAA, and I'm like, Matt, not everything falls under HIPAA.
It does. Life falls under HIPAA.
Me and Matt can be having a regular friendship conversation, and he'll pull the HIPAA card. So HIPAA. We should just come up with another word for it's just a friend thing. Like, but that's the thing. There is no actual like government law about sharing other people's secrets that's not related to the medical field.
Yeah.
And I know you asked me how I would have dealt with that situation, or if I just think it's okay to confine in certain colleagues.
Yeah.
And I think my response is I do think it's okay to a certain extent. But I don't think that unless you have like a really, really, really good understanding or relationship with somebody, you necessarily should, because it can be taken different ways, and the workplace is the workplace. It's not your personal life. And some people have two different faces when it comes to each of those environments, as well as there's also a difference between confining in somebody and gossiping.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people don't know the difference, and that's also why maybe like she didn't think it was that big of a deal. I could be mistaken. Who knows what was going through her mind?
Well, and also too, I mean, like I found out that this person was just kind of like a not good person. Like you don't have.
So why'd you confine it?
No, because like I thought she was, and I thought they were, and then they showed their true colors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people do that, and it's just, so it's like you think you are in safe spaces and you realize you're not. And that was kind of a big wake up call for me. Also, one of the reasons why I decided to leave my 9-to-5 sort of, job working for someone else. And I was like, screw this. Like, I'm going to just go work for myself, and then I confide in myself. when
Well,
stuff
and you
goes
can
bad.
also pick because,
But
yeah,
yeah,
because you
exactly.
are still surrounded with people in the workplace. Like,
You
I still
do,
deal
yeah.
with people, but you have your own autonomy and, like, you get to pick who you can find. Like, you know what I mean? When
Yeah.
you are your own boss, you kind of get to pick and choose who you surround yourself with
Yeah.
versus if you're a part of, like, an establishment or a business. You're just around people who you're, like, randomly thrown into when you get hired.
Yep.
You know, you just go ahead and join the little team that's there. If you don't mind me asking, then also, can you share what you combined in her with?
I can't.
No?
HIPAA.
Okay. Do me a favor and give me one other example of toxicity you've seen in your workplace.
Interesting enough, poor leadership
Oh,
is
definitely.
a big one. So where I can say I've dealt with that was you know, just managers lying to people and then just being like
About what?
just about like patient advocacy is a big one. Like that, God, that one that really nails it on the head for me. That's
Mm-hmm.
just hard. Like when you are someone who claims to be like, oh, we're doing everything that's best for the patient, and then you just end up finding out that they're just doing best for the company dollar.
Oh, completely. You see
And
that all the
that you
time.
do, but it's just like but they claim to always just be there for the patient, and then they make rules about only being there for the patient, but deep down you know that they're not. And that's just like how two-faced and how surface level they are.
Well, yeah, because
That bothers
essentially,
me.
yeah, because
So I deal
essentially,
with that.
okay.
Not currently, but I used to in the past.
I get that.
Yeah.
I've seen that so many times. Especially too though, because when it's like their whole reason behind technically having like, and I do believe that like all patients deserve to be heard and taken care of adequately, but like there's a right way to take people and like a kind of like conniving way to take care of people.
Yeah.
And I've frequently seen it where like they're only interested in that situation because they want to get a good review to help their business, or they want to get a good review because like their pay scale is based on how the good reviews are in
Mm-hmm.
like that specific area.
I'm also
So,
just like, manipulation is crazy. Like, I cannot stand manipulative bosses who take on like new people or something and then try to like twist them into like their own, like they're just narcissists at their core, but they just will like try to make them into them in a way. And then like say, oh, if you want it done successfully, this is how you do it. And I cannot tell you how many enough like you deal with situations when you're in rooms where you just don't even want to talk because you know that this person has little minions walking around.
ooh.
And I can't stand that. That like gives me massive ick.
Well, because that's not necessarily like a safe work environment either. Like, you shouldn't be worried about like just accidentally the wrong thing coming out and then you being reprimanded for
Yeah.
it. Nourish a collaborative environment at all. Like,
Yeah.
good rapport. You need to, like, a lot of cases, especially when you're working with the well being of other people, you need to have a good team behind you
Yeah.
because that can make or break a lot of things. Oh my God. I can't like I've seen so much toxicity in so many areas of my life with so many different jobs that I've had. Oddly enough though, you're right though. I feel like definitely nursing has probably been the most toxic. Surprisingly, I've worked like for car porters with like foreign people, and they were like the nicest people ever. I've worked in bars. I was a bartender. I was a waitress. I've babysat. Anything under the sun. Now
Yeah.
I'm a coach. And yeah, the hospital, oddly enough, is probably the most toxic environment that I've seen. And I don't want to like make that discourage anybody from the healthcare industry. It might just be because it's the biggest establishment I've ever worked in with like the most amount of emotions. But yeah, definitely. And kind of piggybacking off of you a little bit, one thing that I've seen was because this one place I was working at was so big on patient satisfaction because that's how they base their entire existence or whatnot. And this is the same, I'll explain after I tell my story. But so this manager, her only job, even though we're all dying here, like we're all have more patients than we're actually supposed to have. We're breaking each other. Like it's not a good day. We're short staffed. This one manager is a nurse, but her main job is to go room to room to make sure all the patients are satisfied. not help out when we're short staffed. I digress. So she comes out like guns blazing at me and she's like, it's like 11 o'clock. I get there at 7. She's like, you haven't been in your patient's room all morning. What is wrong with you? What's going on? Like, actually kind of being aggressive with me. And I'm like, excuse me? She's just like, your patient said he hasn't seen you all morning. And I'm just like, have you checked? It's 11 o'clock. I'm like, I was just in there 5 minutes ago. I've spoken with his daughter who's down the hall right now taking a phone call. Have you looked at the chart? I've charted like 3 different times. He's had a bowel movement. I've charted his vitals. Like, excuse me, why are you coming at me right now? She's just like, he said this. And I'm like, that patient, if you look in the chart, like, he's confused. This is an older gentleman. And she like came at me very aggressively. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. Same manager I've also seen yell at a nurse for being scared for a decompensating patient. She's concerned because the patient is not responsive. Your response is not a good response in general, let alone like you're going to make this nurse scared not to ask questions again. Yeah. So that's one thing, is where it's like, I've realized when you have a chaotic leader, the chaos just continues. Yeah.
Yeah. And also poor leadership. There's nothing worse than someone who claims to know what they're doing and they have no idea. Yeah. And you know that they have no idea.
Isn't it funny though that like, so any workplace, I feel like you talk to people and they're like, oh, there's this new protocol we put into place, or there's this new rule, whatever. And they're like, who came up with this new rule or protocol? And it's like from the higher ups who don't even know what the heck you do on a daily basis. Yeah. And you're just like, if only you knew what you just did. Or like what this means. Like, have you ever tried to do this thing personally? Yeah. So yeah, I guess we can start there. Is what are some very toxic traits you see from management, I guess, as well as how can you handle it? Yeah. And what are some good qualities? Yeah. I know that's a lot, but.
No, it's okay. I mean, so immediately like looking at toxic traits, again, like very manipulative behavior is a big one, and how you see them talk to you. Also having like very like two-faced managers, is that I've had that happen where I've had people just blatantly say really good things to my face and say like, hey, you're doing amazing. Thank you so much. Good job. You know, we talked about words of affirmation, all that, right? And then immediately you get feedback from employees being like, dude, that like boss hates you. Like you're like they like least favorite person because of XYZ. And you're like, what the heck? Like, why can't you just been honest about like things you want me to change or do differently if you wanted to see change? Yeah. Instead of just like being honest. But then a lot of people don't want to be honest. So that's really shitty. And that sucks. Yeah. What were the other 2 questions?
I was going to say that also doesn't feed like, because I would feel like any good boss would want their employees to like thrive and grow, because let's be honest, when your employees thrive and grow, so does your business or whatever you're trying to accomplish. And right there, just like, instead of giving somebody constructive criticism, like just lying to their face is not doing the company, the business, the manager, or you any good. Yeah. Not to mention some people just like might be scared and don't know how to do constructive criticism. They only know criticism. Yeah. So that's why they choose to veer away from it. Who knows? I guess the other question that I asked was, how can you handle it?
Leave.
I mean, because that's what
start your own thing.
I mean, honestly, though, that's what's so different when it comes to, I was going to say, we're going to get into like coworkers after this, but like, that's what's so difficult with the boss is like, when your coworkers are like, something's wrong, a lot of times you go up to higher management, right? Higher authority. What do you do when it's that person?
So I've done that. I went to a higher manager and then they pretty much told me to F off.
Really?
Yeah, because I complained about like the toxicity in that work environment. And then there was a lot of people that have complained. But the thing is they didn't care, because at the end of the day, they had a secure job. So they didn't care about anyone else below them. They only cared about their status and where they were at. So if you don't care about anyone down here, it doesn't matter. So I think that was like a big wake up call for me, was recognizing that no one's going to save you but yourself. Yeah. And so to answer your question, I was lucky enough to be in a place of privilege to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone has that opportunity, and I fully understand. I was able to leave, and, I was like, you know what? I will figure this out. I remember talking to you like the first week I left that job and being like, I just left this position. I may need a hospital job. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And I remember talking to you about this over a year ago. And you were like, you're going to be fine. You'll figure it out. And I was lucky enough that I did. But I think that a lot of people too are in that like scared mindset a little bit of being like, I can't leave this position because I need this money. I need this job. I need the ability to, survive and feed my family and pay my rent or pay my mortgage. And, it's a lot and it's hard. So I think that, I do believe in having honest conversations, but that being said, if you know that those honest conversations are going to lead to more toxicity, being able to keep to yourself and just do the work that is, that is given to you and being able to just stick to that works temporarily. How you choose to go about it long term is going to be up to you. I'm not telling you that this is a permanent fix.
Yeah.
Because the permanent fix would be to leave.
I agree. And
to go, either do your own or go work for someone else who you feel is on the same sort of values and levels that you are. That's truly at the end of the day, that's what you want. But I recognize that that's not capable and doable for everyone in that moment. So finding those little things that you can do in the meantime to bridge that gap until you know that opportunity is available to you, important. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. That's the other thing I was going to ask you is like, if that manager, that's their response to you going and confiding in them and saying, look, something with this other person isn't working out. Because I'm talking about the higher up person because of that. What was the turnover rate at this place?
High.
That's what I mean. So I'm just like.
Very high. Like crazy. Like
I think people don't realize.
Like, no one stayed there longer than 6 to 8 months.
And I don't think people realize how like poor behavior in the upper areas, like the higher ups, actually trickles down to the people lower down. Cause it's like, they don't care because they have the secure job. But in reality, like you're influencing other people's jobs. And since they leave, you're probably not even reaping all the rewards or benefits that you could be getting from a staff that actually like kicks ass.
Yeah.
Because like when everybody's doing well, it goes up. When one person's, especially higher up, is doing bad, it goes down. I don't know, you know? And also too, when you said that, it just like kind of made my heart melt a little bit because I actually know a lot of people, and it might not even just be bosses. It's like a job that they don't like, right? And in their head, they're like, I get it. People have bills to pay. We do need careers and we do need money to live, especially where we live, where things are expensive. But what literally eats at my soul is when I see people day in and day out go to the same job that they've been complaining about now for like the past 6 years, and it literally just looks like they're dead inside. And I'm like, why don't you try to leave? And in their mind, before they even started to look for other options, they just have been told that that's all there is. This is a kind of like, unfortunately, I feel like we are taught to accept toxic work environments.
Yep.
Like this is how it just is. You have to deal with people, you bite the bullet, you grind, and that's it. But I'm like, in my mind, what I want to encourage people to do is what's 10 times harder than like the thing right now that you're scared of, like trying to find another job, like putting yourself out there, interviewing, whatever it is that seems scary to you. Because a lot of people are like, at least I have this job. I don't want to go through the interviewing process again. Like that scares me. What if they find out I'm looking for another job? That scares me. Or starting this business, I don't know what's out there. That scares me. And it's hard. What is 10 times harder and 10 times scarier? Staying in a situation that you already don't like the rest of your life, waking up one day with a numb heart and soul and realizing you wasted your potential. Yep. To me, that is 10 times scarier. That is 10 times harder. Staying in an environment where you do not flourish, when you actually realize it later, because most people do, that's what sucks. And I do wish that like we had people who in the workplaces who completely support us all the time. That's not the case. But I do like how you also said to like use it, like accept the situation that you're in right now. I've also been guilty of like keeping my head down. I'm the person where it's just like, don't poke the bear. If you already know you're on somebody's radar and this person that's higher up is not going to support you, like do your job to the best of your ability. Try to stay under the radar, realize why you're doing it, and then look for all the other opportunities that's going to put you in a better environment.
Agreed.
But you have to start looking for those other opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like people just get really scared sometimes, and I'm like, I promise you they're out there. You just have to look and not let this current job drain you, because when you're drained also, you don't have the energy to do anything else.
Yep.
Realize why you're doing it, because that will give you a little bit more energy and make it as painless as possible. Keep your head down, do your job to the best of your ability, and plan your like getaway plan.
Yep. Agreed.
So in that case, then, since we're on the like topic of leaders and managers, what do you think are good qualities for anybody in a higher up position to have? Like, what do you look for when you're if like you're working with somebody?
Yeah. I mean, you said it yourself, you know, you look for leaders. So my biggest thing at the end of the day is, you know, I don't like looking for bosses. I like looking for leaders. I like people who can teach me something new about the current position that I'm in. I'm lucky enough now that I don't have a quote unquote leader, but I have a mentor. I have someone who has literally taught me almost everything that I know to this day and has put literally my foundation in place. And that, and that between that and a boss, obviously I don't report to, you know, my mentor for every single little thing. And, you know, she pays my bills, I pay my own bills. But at the end of the day, like, she is the one who has gotten to me where I am today, because she has literally sat me down and helped me build the physical roadmap, help me succeed. I think that a lot of bosses just create the, you know, no pun intended, bossy atmosphere, you know, and it's just like, we just tell you what to do and how to do it. And you're going to stay doing what you're doing, and you stay that little ant. And you just keep marching in a line.
I mean, because not to be this person, but when you're a little ant, you're really easy to squish and move on past.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. But I see that, you know, leaders are people that allow you the opportunity to grow, to make mistakes, to change, to see potential, and to expand the current knowledge of what you've already witnessed, and to expand also a company's knowledge too, which is really cool. I have seen some really cool environments a few years ago in corporate America that did like a lot of tech work. And I saw like a lot of these like crazy collaborative environments where like every single person at this one company that I saw was like obsessed with like not only like being better for the company. I was like, Jesus, is everyone here like brainwashed? Are we good? But genuinely, it was like, but I saw everyone like be extremely passionate about the product, about the work, and about the job, because they had a phenomenal leader who was like, yo, I will be here at 5:30 a.m. every day. You know, I know that we had, you know, a guest on.
I was literally, are you talking about Ryan?
Yes.
That was literally what was in my head.
Yeah.
He's like, and if you can inspire somebody
Yeah.
and get them to see the vision, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing ever, is being able to, and you see that in real time. And I'm lucky enough to now be in a position where I am actually taking on interns this summer for my own company, and, you know, and starting this process. And I've already talked to people, and I can see people start to get excited about these possible opportunities. Yeah. And you see people do that. And I think that's really cool, because when someone's excited about your passions and your drive and your work and what you do, it's endless.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think are some of like the best qualities in a leader, and also just someone who communicates. You know, I cannot tell you enough how relieving it is. I had actually an old manager way back in the day who called me and was like, boy, I'm tired. I am tired. I am so burnt out. If I do not get back to you about XYZ, please give me 2 days. And I promise you, I will get back to you.
That's so healthy though.
And I was like, yeah, it's okay. She's like, I'm going through it. And if you need to take a day off, you can too. It's okay. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, it's just, it was like really refreshing. It was kind. And now she's like insanely successful and runs in a whole ass therapeutic company out in Arizona. And yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, she's incredible.
I was gonna say that's such a amazing conversation though, because can you think about how many, I don't know what it was regarding, but can you think about like how many people who, I mean, people do worry about their jobs all the time.
For sure.
I don't know necessarily why, because I've finally adapted the lifestyle. What's meant for me is meant for me. Like everything else, leave it to the wind. But a lot of people do worry about their job safety a lot.
Yeah.
And if a manager or like a boss wasn't responding to somebody in a timely fashion, I could only think what's going through their head, and it's causing them anxiety. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's enough going on in this world. Like, if you are good at your job and you know you're good at it, like, you shouldn't have to also be worrying about, like, I need to impress this one person or be okay. Or if God forbid this boss who doesn't have a level head, like, is in a bad mood one day, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
I want to say when I look, see, that's the thing is also, I feel extremely blessed where, like, I really don't even, the boss that I've done contract nursing now for so long, and that manager I was talking to you about wasn't even really like my manager. She was the hospital floors manager. I was there. So I feel blessed where I don't necessarily respond to anybody or like, report to anybody, I guess. But especially as a new grad, when I was looking at things, or even with people that I work with, like collaborate with in the coaching setting, what I really look for is somebody who is just open and honest and wants you to succeed and has this vision in their head, and like you can go to and talk to about problems that are going on in the workplace or with a certain thing that you're doing, and you know that they're going to come to you with like an honest, logical answer, and they're not going to let their emotions get involved. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like too often people do bring their external emotions from things that happen not related to work into work, because we're at work so much, like they don't really have time to decompress before. And it just lingers in and leaves a bad type of undertone for the rest of the day. You know, if you're stressed at home in your family life and you come to work, it's going to make the work situation stressed. If you're at work and you go home to your family, it's going to make it stressed. So I'd really just look for emotional maturity also in a boss. I feel like is something that's like very crucial. Absolutely. And I feel like you can tell that right off the bat though too. I don't know, when I start like running events and stuff, I want to be that person who's like, yes, I want to train people so they don't need me. But I also want to be just as excited when I show up and be like, what are we doing? Yeah. You know? Agreed. Then disregarding bosses, have you ever had an experience? Well, you did with a coworker. Yeah. Right? For sure. Yeah. I think with
snitches get stitches. You know who you are.
Do you? I'm kidding. I love that. No. That's only kind of serious, you guys. Speaking of like stitches and stuff, dude, do you know like the entire first year that I was a nurse, I went home like crying every single day.
From the stress, or the stress of like the environment or the people, or
probably everything. But do you know how like I just said, keep your head down and realize why you're doing things? Yeah. I was that person though, keeping my head down, not from my boss, because my boss was actually a lovely person. It was the other senior nurses that made my life a living hell. Yeah. I was like scared for like the shift.
Do that. Why? Why do they do that?
I was scared for the shift to end because like I would have to talk to them, and I knew if I did one thing that wasn't perfect, if there was one, we worked on a trauma unit, okay? Yeah. There was blood everywhere. If there was one spot of blood on that bed sheet, ooh, there's going to be hell to pay. Like, actually. And I'm not even kidding you. I would barely sleep. I was concerned about my job safety almost always. They made me fearful of my own skills, thinking that I'm incompetent, and I know I'm definitely not. Yep. And I was just scared to like talk to them. And that also like aids in a toxic work environment too, especially where I work, because if you are, thankfully, I've never ever let it impact patient care. I'd rather swallow my pride and just suck it up and make sure somebody's okay. Yeah. Than like just guess on something regarding somebody's health, especially in an ICU. But like that doesn't allow like growth in the workplace either. If you're scared to go in or like talk to somebody, like you're not going to thrive, you're not going to grow, and that's a horrible way to live. When I look back on it now, if I ever felt like that in a job, and I can feel it right now, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Yeah. And that's also not okay.
Yeah. I agree.
So
no, it's hard. It's so funny you say that, because one of the reasons too that I also left like my last environment was they literally made me feel less than. I thought I was a horrible therapist. I genuinely thought I was horrible at my job. I thought I wasn't good enough, all these different things. And it was really interesting because two things. One, my supervisor, who was not a part of really the company, actually went back and looked at like my therapy notes
Mm-hmm.
and was having me look at like my clinical reviews and everything. And she was like, this is great. This is great. This is fine. This is fine. She's like, what the heck? Like, these are all like super great. And my boss would just put everything in red and just, cross this out. This
I'd be
needs
like,
to
can
be
you
changed."
tell me why it's in red, please?
Oh no, she would give these insane explanations. And my supervisor was like, this is insane. And then my supervisor later admitted to me, she's like, this person actually just does not like you. And I need you to know that
That's
like,
not okay.
it's not. And no, she admitted to me, she's like, I think you should go find a new job. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. So I'm saying like that happens so much more than you think. People think that they actually are on that high of a horse, that if you just don't vibe well with your coworkers, you can just like get them fired and it doesn't matter. It's crazy.
I believe karma comes around to get people.
Oh, it does. 100%.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, like hindsight's 2020, because now I'm in the position I am running my own therapeutic, business and doing the behavioral work that I do with kids. And it's the passion that I love and everything. I'm weirdly grateful for it. Had she been like, oh, this is amazing, this is fine, whatever, I'd probably still be at that job. I would have never met you. I would have stayed in Malibu.
I am so grateful for
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but I mean, I say it all the time.
So I'm grateful that you were a piece of shit. Thank you.
I know, but like I say it all the time. I'm like,
crazy.
It's so
I might
weird
need to clip that, but it's fine.
No.
You suck.
But it's so real though, and it's so true. Is like I say this all the time, where it's just like there's definitely been some shit done to me where I was like, huh?
Yeah.
And it literally made me feel like in the moment I was gonna die. It literally, like, I'm dead serious. Where I've told myself before, like, I kind of do just want to fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. But like hindsight now, looking back at it, like, I'm so forever grateful for all those things that happened, regardless of how small or big they are, just because I've realized that like something has came out of it. It forced me to either get uncomfortable or like have a realization about myself or the world that just made me have a better outlook on it. But that's the difference between like, I mean, us and some other people though, is because instead of feeling defeated by such circumstances, I really like, I feel empowered sometimes. I'm like, I'm not going to let this defeat me. How can I fix it? How can I figure out what's the rationale behind this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I encourage people too. And I don't encourage people like, things suck sometimes, but they're only meant to like, as long as you don't let it defeat you when you turn it into your superpower, it's meant to bring you into like what is actually for you probably. I like to think anything that's just like insane that's happening and you don't know why is because it's like the universe giving you a little nudge. Like go do this thing actually. That's why like for me instance, this week has been an interesting week for me where I've actually had to live like a 9-to-5 week. Thankfully it's only for 1 week. And to me, I'm like, I could talk myself into sitting there still and being like, this is okay. I can do this the rest of my life. No, I would go crazy. And that's like, because I allow myself to go crazy though. Anybody else would be like, that's just a part of life, And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm choosing to do something different. This is not how life has to be. But that's all you have to do is make that choice and say something else is out there. I'm going to go looking for it. And at the same time, too, I don't want everybody listening to this thinking that now they have to go be an entrepreneur or be their own boss or find some other weird, wacky way like we did to make money and support themselves. No, because I've also, like, I still do nursing part-time. I worked as a nurse after that one job, traveled the country doing it, seen so many different scenarios. It is crazy, though, that when you actually do find a good work environment, which they're out there, how much more you actually enjoy your job, though. So, like, I'm not saying if you had this passion to begin with in college and you were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, or when you first started it and you loved it and just somebody else ruined it for you, don't let that one person or that one environment ruin it for you. If you love it, continue to do it. You will find... I promise you will find an environment if you go looking for it with people who actually love that environment and love that job as well. And that makes all the difference.
It sure does.
Anyways, go ahead. Please continue. How do you set a boundary?
You don't.
Okay. I want to say set all the boundaries that you think that you need within reasonable reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
And
genuinely.
stay with them.
Yeah. Well, and how you go about that is actually like figuring out your values a little bit too. And that's a big one.
Knowing your boundaries.
Knowing your boundaries.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't, figure them out. And if you don't know how to figure them out, Google it. Just Google, what boundaries should I have to live a healthy life? I kid you not, because that's what I did. And
Wait, did you really?
Oh, 100%.
What pops up?
Self-existence.
Wait,
No,
what?
I'm just kidding.
Boundary is self-existence.
I
Just
can
stop
actually.
existing. Huh?
I want to like actually look it up, like what I wrote.
I can't believe you actually Googled what boundaries should I set. I consider anything that like irks me or like eats away at my soul a boundary that I need to set.
Yeah.
Anything where I'm just like, ooh, I don't like how this feels. Within reason, like
Yeah.
I said, within reason, some things just you get a little crazy. But to me, that's when I know how to set a boundary.
No, absolutely. And also too, okay, so I remember it now but I remember the biggest three were like communicate, say no.
That's how to set a boundary, not
Yeah.
what boundaries you should have.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
that is
okay.
the boundary.
Oh,
like
how-
communicate and
okay.
say no. Like those are like how to like making sure that you're in a place that you are recognizing that you are not comfortable. And if you want to be comfortable in that setting, how are you going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not comfortable in that setting, you don't want to be there, leave.
Can you give me some examples of when you set boundaries?
So, for example, if your boss is calling you at 8:30 p.m. and you only work a 9 to 5, don't pick up the phone.
No, don't.
Don't do that. That's a good boundary. Also, another great boundary too, don't have your work email attached to your phone.
I don't know
heard
about
of
that.
No. So get this. I have heard about this. If you work a 9 to 5.
Okay, a 9 to 5. I'm like,
I'm
sometimes
only
I just be
paid-
lazy
I'm
and
only-
like to look
no.
at night versus the day.
But that's okay. That's okay. If you do that, good for you. But like, I tell people this, like, do not look at any emails until you're at work, because it is not your responsibility to know what's going on until you show up at 9 a.m.
That is true.
People will make it, and that's a big blur line, because so many people think like, oh, something happened at the night shift or something happened during the middle of the night, and now it's my fault because I don't know and I walked
You
in.
weren't there. What are you going to do right now? You're not going to be able to make any changes until you get there anyways.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
you're
I
paid
get
the
that.
exact same whether you know at 2 a.m. or 9 a.m. So
See,
do
but some
yourself a
places
favor.
might argue like your salary.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. They're like your salary. Like
Yeah.
we just pay you to exist.
Yeah. And it's like, well, no, but you're not salaried. If you're salaried, you're only able to work X amount of hours. You're only working 40 hours a week.
That's true.
You're not supposed to work 70 hours a week on salary. That's not how it works.
Well, I mean, it's not how it works, but
So-
some people still.
Oh, but then that's like a really horrible tax environment. Like
no,
you can't-
exactly,
you can't do
completely.
that. So yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So like I was salaried and I was told that I could only look at my stuff. My predecessor was amazing. My boss was like, not that boss. My supervisor told me to only check your emails between 9 to 5 and never put your work email on your phone.
I agree with that.
And I was like, whoa, that was life changing, because I had it on my phone. I was always looking at it, and I'd catch myself just like scrolling through the emails on the weekends.
You deserve a rest
and
time.
stuff.
You
And
deserve to have a
rest.
life.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, that is not your job. That is not your job.
Yeah.
And like I've had some like really crazy stuff happen in the middle of the night with like, cause when I worked in residential center, and I was like, you know what? That's not my job. That is like literally the night staff's job to deal with that. And then I will deal with all those, I will deal with whatever goes on in the morning during that time that I'm allotted.
Mm-hmm.
And if I stay past 5 p.m. to like work on something or whatever, like I will make sure and make it well known that like I will not be at work until 11 a.m.
Oh, I love
Or 10
that.
a.m.
I actually
I will,
love that
I will
boundary.
literally only fit a 40-hour work week.
Because I'm that person where like I work for myself. So like I do set my own hours when it comes to coaching. But when I do go into a situation where somebody else is paying me, like the hospital, it's hourly.
Yeah.
So I literally will like, until I am walking in that building, I will not like, I mean, when I'm walking into the building, I'm like, I'm on campus, I'm clocking in.
Yep.
And it's just like, I will not clock out and then go do something. I'm
Yep.
like, I get paid for my time. Some places like hate when you do overtime. I'm like, I'm still here. I'm telling you right now, this stuff isn't done. You can either tell me to leave while this is not done, or you can pay me for the time I have to stay to get it done. It's your choice. But I love that. I love that firm boundary, especially with salary, because I feel like a lot of people will not set it.
Yeah.
Even though it's just like it's funny because.
And if you have a boss who encourages you not to set that, then that is a massive red flag.
Oh, completely.
Yeah. A lot of people don't recognize it.
Like I said, I've worked at a bunch of different places, and any place where it's just like they're pretty much harassing me or don't want to pay me for extra time that I've stayed, I will not stay there. And now it's funny because there's one place that it's the good work environment, and I'll go in and they'll be like, hey, are you free tomorrow? And I'd be like, no, I'm not. Like, I got stuff I got to do. You know what I mean? I'm very big on my, like, I know what days I'm coming in other than I'm not coming in. And they'll like joke with me and be like, oh yeah, like you have a life outside of here, right? And like, it's just funny because at least we acknowledge that like it is kind of toxic, how a lot of other places though that I've been at would be like, no, you have an obligation to come in. I'm like, no, I really don't. Yep. I even had to set that, like working even as an independent contractor in nursing, I actually had to set that boundary with even like an agency, because they would call me at like 4:00 in the morning saying, hey, can you come in? This place needs you. And I'm like, if I don't tell you that I've told you multiple times, I will let you know when I'm coming in. If I don't let you know when I'm coming in, no amount of phone calls will make me want to come in. Do not call me at 4:00 in the morning. Do not call me at 11:00 at night.
Yep.
Like, I have a life outside of this. You know what I mean? Unless like I hope that one day, and honestly, it's still like this. So when it does come to this podcast and coaching, I love it so much. Like, let it encompass my entire life.
For sure.
Because everything we talk about on here is stuff that I naturally do anyways, regardless if like.
And it's your passion.
Yeah.
So when you're passion projects, you do not need to do a 9 to 5 for. You can totally leeway that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll do this all day, every day. No big deal. You know what I mean?
But I'd rather do 15 hours doing something that I love than 8 hours of something I hate.
Exactly. But when it comes to something where like, you know, especially in a workplace that like might not appreciate you, especially, I do believe in like scratching each other's backs. Like, I got yours if you got mine. I respect everything reciprocated, you know, energy and stuff like that. But especially in a case where you do feel like a little worker bee, and that's all you are, like, please set that boundary.
Yep.
Because it can get really bad really fast, I've realized. And that's how one day you wake up also and you're like, oh, my entire life is work and I don't even like my work. And like, I've let my friendships, my relationships, and just my quality of life suffer because of it. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really, really easy for a lot of people to do these days.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of like, is extortion the word I'm looking for when it's just like they expect you to do more work than you're actually signed up to?
Yeah.
I don't want to really go out on a negative note like that. I'm sorry. It's just something I had to say when I think about like life sometimes, because my thoughts get crazy, guys. But give me, I'm trying to think of something right now to end it with. Do you have any positive things about like that you could, positive advice you could give people when in the workplace, or how to optimize their home life balance, or anything regarding the subject?
If something doesn't feel right, please pay attention to that. Just be in tune to when you feel that this is not the environment or setting for you. Do not force yourself into a puzzle piece that does not fit you, because that's just uncomfortable.
I agree with that.
So, yeah.
I agree with that. I think mine would probably be in any case scenario is just like, please do not let fear control you. Regardless if that is fear that you will not find another job that you like, regardless if that is fear that you can't accomplish what you want to accomplish, regardless if that is fear for speaking up or advocating for yourself, do not let it control you.
Yep.
Take a breath, take a beat, remember why you're doing it, and please just speak your mind and be true to who you are. I think that's my biggest one. So
Love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this conversation, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you.
And until next time, guys, I love you.
All right.
What was that?
I'm sorry. Can you say it one more time?
I kind of like that. Can we end with that?
No.
And until next time, guys, I love you.
Thank you so much, and keep shining your light.